Good stuff. Okay, well, here we go. It's the 1st of July and it's Graham Martin with Careers Club on Careers Accelerator, not only on YouTube, but also on Zoom and on Facebook Live. So thank you for joining me on this fairly grotty day. I always come about the weather because it's just been such a great couple of months, hasn't it, really? But sadly, down here, I mean, Gavin's probably got his big coat on up in Yorkshire, but it's been very changeable. I've had some back problems, as some of you know, and I had a trainer come around this morning, and for the first time in some months I was able to lift some weights, so it's really great. But a bit of a down day really for a lot of people. Today, announcement of about 11,000 jobs being just, that's it, end of furlough mark 1, and companies have, and I know this with clients of mine, they've been thinking about how many people that they're going to be pulling back into the business. And sadly, we've got, let's let Louise in. Hi Louise. Hello Louise, how are you? So, you know, we've got 11,000 people just today have been announced as being made redundant, which I think is pretty tough, actually. Pretty tough, and I suspect, sadly, that it won't be the end of it either. You know, we're going to have more companies that are going to be making redundancies in lots of different sectors. So let's get on with the show, shall we? Firstly, a plug. I hope you don't mind. I'm running a free event. It's called a 5-day challenge, and it takes place on the 27th. That's the 27th of July. It's on a Monday to Friday. Have I got the date right, Gavin? Forgive me. I did make notes. Honest, I did. Anyway, it's the last Monday. Gavin's just checking out the dates, but it's going to be a free event, and it's kind of my essentials course, you know, the fundamentals. So it's the 27th, and what I'm going to do within this week, and the posts are going to be coming through at 6 o'clock in the morning for those people that, you know, need to get up and go to work or get kids ready or whatever reasons you're up in the morning, so you can really crack on before the day comes through. And then people will be updating me, sending me their updates and kind of their homework, if you like. And then the evening from 8 o'clock onwards, I'll be sitting here just talking to people about what they've done. We're certainly going to be covering what I perceive to be the most important aspects, which are CV, LinkedIn profile, cover letter, and of course, crucially, you know, what are you actually looking for? You know, in 32 years, I have to say that I get so many people who would come into my office at Orchard in North London and say, almost got a job. And seriously, this wasn't necessarily school leavers or people just starting out. This will be people, you know, coming on board, talking to me at sort of 50, 60,000 people, £1,000. And, you know, clearly that's kind of a bit alarming when people don't really know. I think a lot of people sleepwalk into their jobs. You know, maybe there's pressure, maybe there's anxiety, any number of issues, particularly at the moment. And I do see people going out there and grabbing opportunities that aren't necessarily appropriate for them just because they need to get the money in, which, you know, I understand, of course. But I don't necessarily think it's the right thing to do, you know, in the long term, because, you know, if you're unhappy in your job, it shows. There's pressure, and then maybe you don't actually do so well with your appraisals, and maybe you don't pass probation, and who knows, maybe you don't make it. Remember, the first 2 years in the UK at the moment, companies can, apart from any other reasons such as sexual discrimination or anything like that, they can let people go. So, you know, please, I'm suggesting if you can afford to, wait for the right opportunity. So we were talking about this all on my fundamentals course, starting on the 27th of July this month. So there'll be more coming through about that. It's free, remember, it's free. Join in, get involved as much as you can. I will be giving people support throughout the day, and for every, you know, 8 o'clock till whenever, you know, I'll be up. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, certainly we're going to talk about the CV, which I think is one of the biggest audiences that we've attracted for some time. And I'm going to go into that in a lot of detail. But just for the first couple of minutes, do you remember last week we were talking about psychometric profiling? And I said to the first 3 people that send in their details, I was going to carry out a psychometric profile. Well, I've done just that. So the first one is, and I've given all codes, they know who they are. So this is A. I hope is that the right way around, Gavin? Can you see that? I always look to my friend Gavin So yes or no, mate? Is that right round? It is. Good stuff. Thank you. So do you remember the four categories at the top here? D for dominance, I for influence, S for speed and stability, and C for compliance. And this person, number 8, their initials are F. They know who they are. So F. What was interesting was you've got a very high S, solid, steady, reliable, consistent, family values, and we've had a conversation. A little bit of a plodder, aren't you? But in a really, really nice way. Let's let some more people in here. Are we all in? Stan, I think you're joining me now. 20 people in the meeting.
I dare put my
oh, can you
video on.
Can you mute yourself, please? Sorry. Would you mind? Thank you. All good stuff. So, the DIC, not disco, DIC, dominance, influence, stability and speed and compliance. This person, solid, steady, reliable, consistent, family values, likes routine. Routine is crucially important to this individual. Next up, you can see quite a developed C for compliance. So they're not necessarily OCD, but process. They love this. Now, you know, this person is in an accounts function, and they love the fact that sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pretty much the same as Thursday, Friday, and they're really good at detail. Down here, though, you can see a low I. Now, remember, the line doesn't denote good or bad. It's just this is a shift. So this is an extrovert, a very outgoing person, maybe like myself. And this is somebody who's much quieter. You know, this individual doesn't want to be talking to strangers on a first-time basis. They're not in credit control. They're just processing orders and producing invoices on the sales ledger. And down here, a lack of D, a lack of dominance, a lack of aggression. So, you know, I've got quite a few of my friends, and a couple watching tonight are quite high Ds. Dominant, assertive, sometimes blunt to the point, kind of action people, risk takers. And you know, you might suspect that I'm a high D. If you remember from last week, you know, high Ds and high Is combined talk quite quickly. Well, this person, A, or initial F, this person talks quite quietly and quite slowly, but also very measured. So accounts, technical work, customer services perhaps, but not when there's lots of strangers. The next one we're going to talk about is B, and this person knows who they are, don't you, with the initials G. Not G for Graham, but G. So we look at this one. High I, moderate D, low S, kind of coming up a bit on the C side. Now, I can tell you that this is a salesperson, and G is involved in new business activity. So as you can imagine, for them, yeah, it's very important that they can actually do the deals themselves. They can drive decisions. They're taking risks to some extent because, you know, they're out there knocking on doors, not all the deals come through. But this is certainly somebody who's used to making decisions. Often, but not always, often business owners are high D, followed by high I. So outgoing, cheerful, positive, confident. You know, lots of people in their life, lots of acquaintances, and some really good friends. The S below here, unlike F, whose number was A, was, you know, very solid, steady, reliable. I'm not saying this person is flaky, but they do need lots of stimulus, lots of change, lots of new things happening to them all the time. Really, really important. So, you know, new business, never knowing who you're going to talk to, never knowing where the deal is going to come from. And whilst they're not, I'd say, super process driven, they like the idea. So I often say to these people, you know, if you've got a cleaner, I bet you like it when you go home it's neat and tidy. And this person, G, agreed with me actually. So they like neat and tidy, but they can't carry on for very, very long themselves. Okay, so that's DI, low S, and sometimes they'll actually amend or develop their behaviour and modify their behaviour to become a slightly higher C, which can happen when they've got a bit of times on their hands. Oh, sorry. And lastly, C, and this is a lady with the initials R. And look at this. We look at the C. This is extreme. This is sometimes OCD, but this person is ruled by process, analytical, detailed, methodical, careful, super cautious, not risk averse. This person's going to dress, you know, think Marks and Spencer's, as in, you know, good value for money, blending with the crowd, know they're going to get a decent wear out of it. They're not flamboyant. The S here, just above the line, they like routine, but unusually this person, it's not as much routine as somebody earlier we looked at. This individual likes a little bit of variety, but nonetheless they will do everything very precisely. Their wardrobe at home will be casual clothes there, business clothes there, and they'll rotate them with the seasons. Gentle eye, not flamboyant, but kind of gets on with people, but a small coterie of friends, and a very low D. Hates risk, doesn't like to have an argument, resolves issues through conflict, okay, and common sense. So that's 3 people, ABC. So I hope you, well, you should, because you're here tonight recognising these, either here or on Facebook. So let's talk about the CV. That's really the big thing, isn't it, about today. Gavin, yes sir.
Sorry to interrupt, but just before you carry on, that seemed a reasonable break. Just to say hi to the people on Facebook, because you've got 14 people who are watching on Facebook as well.
14 people on Facebook. Thank you, Gavin. I'm not watching that, as you know, so that's great. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And we've got 20 people here. I've got some people waiting to come on board. So here we go. I've got Sandra and Roland. Hi Sandra, how are you all? So you should all be on mute if that's okay. I can see some of your faces. Oh, Stan, that's a mugshot. I like the quiff, more hair than me. And our friend Raj is not very well, Gavin. He's got some health issues, so he'll join us later on, probably on catch up, or maybe tomorrow on your gig. So let's talk about the CV. One of the most important pieces in your toolkit of the job seekers toolkit. Now, whether you are actively looking for a job now and you're on all the websites, whether you're concerned about being made redundant, or maybe furloughs come to the end. A friend of mine working in retail has been told that his hours have been cut. Now, as it is, he can afford to take that situation, but not everybody can they, Mo? Right. So this is really for everybody that needs to get their act together with the CV. Now, there's been a lot of changes recently. I think one of the biggest issues we need to talk about is AI, artificial intelligence. Let me explain in layman's terms what that is. Now, AI isn't this one piece of software developed by Skynet or Microsoft or Google or Facebook. AI is self-learning software, computer software, that a lot of developers are starting to develop, whereupon the bots, the robots, clever software, clever computers are now going in through huge databases, and they're pulling out through what we call Boolean search, keywords and key phrases that are going to be what the recruiters, what the hiring managers, what the people that are looking to recruit people are looking for. Now, the challenge is that when you look at your opening statement, sadly, too many people are writing CVs that really have got no place being on the internet. They're perhaps sort of 5-10 years old, and they're peppered with these phrases: enthusiastic, hardworking, ambitious, team player, honest, for example, is another one that comes up. And in 32 years in recruiting, I've never had a client say to me, "Graham, this time can you send me somebody that's not hardworking, that's not enthusiastic, that's not a team player, and I definitely don't want anybody that's honest." So they're kind of given, aren't they, really? It's accepted that those are built in. You have to have those to get a job, and you're going to probably get checked out with background reports and references and so forth. But when I look at people's CVs these days, they tend to think they're writing for human eyes. Now, I know this absolutely, because there's a lot of surveys that go on that we provide them throughout the recruitment sector in the UK. It's about 63-64% of all CVs initially are looked at by AI. So when you post your CV on LinkedIn, and of course you can do that, if you haven't, you should do it, it's not difficult. If you've got your CV on CV Library, on Total Jobs, on Reed, any of those, the software that those organisations have developed via Boolean search are looking for key phrases and words and names of companies and ratios and statistics and geographical locations, all within the CV. Now, you know me, I've talked about this before. 2 pages really is the absolute maximum, because at some point you're going to end up with your CV in front of a recruiter. Now, having run a recruitment business for over 3 decades, I know that myself and my colleagues, Leonard, just letting you in, my colleagues and my cohort in recruitment, you've probably got about 2 seconds to make an impression. What about that? So people that write reams and reams saying, oh, it's very relevant and recruiters will get around to it. It's not the case. They're going to get bored. Mo's going like this. Have you done it yourself, Mo? You have. So when we think about expressing ourselves coherently, you're thinking about how you can play yourself to the computer. So please, the opening statements, no more than 4 sentences, and it should be factual. You know, it's kind of what my late father, ex-Royal Navy and engineer, used to say, Graham, what are you for? What are you here for? It was always a bit of a slap in the face with like a bucket of cold water, but my dad, Harry, was right. You know, you've got to say what you're here for. So start off with just, with 32 years in the recruitment sector, having recruited XYZ sectors for ABC kind of roles. I have placed more than, in my occasion, nearly 2,000 people in permanent work and many more thousands in temporary situations. So can you see, it's a bit like a trailer, a movie, isn't it? It's the best bits that you're going to incorporate into this opening statement. So what else are you going to put? Well, clearly, let some more people in here. Hi Martin, welcome. You're very welcome to join us. So when we think about the second piece, we've got to be saying about what we've achieved. You know, if this is what you are, well, again, my dad used to say, so what? Well, if you've done that, well, what does that produce? Well, if you're in sales or in recruitment or maybe in production, you can start talking figures and numbers. What have you actually done? Because honestly, companies don't want to hire anybody right now. In fact, they never do. They never want to hire people with all the overheads and the pension and the holidays and the training and all the other issues that go with it. They're looking to hire a solution, aren't they? Looking to hire somebody who can deliver that specific function for them, ideally as effectively and often as cost effectively as they possibly can. So you've got to go to town and make people think, right, this person's done that, this is what they've achieved, this is their so what, this is what they brought into the business. You know, if you're in HR, you're going to be talking about maybe the number of employment tribunals that you had dismissed for your employer, the number of people that you integrated into business. Maybe if you're involved in an acquisition or a merger or a sale of a business, how that changed things. I'm doing some work with some private clients at the moment, and I know that at the 80 to 120,000 pound mark, employers recruiting managing directors, chief executives, even chairmen, they want to know what you're going to bring to the party. So it's also about your contacts and the relationships. Without betraying any confidentiality or any trust issues, you've got to let people know what they're going to get when they're getting you. And fourthly, what are you looking for? Now, please, just honestly, I beg you, do not fall into the trap of saying you're looking to join an ambitious, dynamic, go-ahead company with a solid sense of corporate social responsibility. That doesn't tell the robot anything, does it? And indeed, the employer, if you can imagine, Gavin and I have run companies before, and when we're looking to recruit people, we want to know what people are really looking to do within the business. Now, just because they've done or been occupying a certain function for some years, so for me, recruitment 32 years, but I might, if I was looking to sell my services and looking for employment, well then I might say that, I've now decided to change direction, and a lot of I do a lot of careers consulting, and this whole thing, Careers Accelerator, is built around that, me helping people. So with recruitment, having not died but certainly fallen off the cliff, I'm now spending my time helping people like the folks here who are looking at changing jobs, either through these group sessions or indeed on a one-to-one basis. You've got to say what you're looking for, otherwise you get pigeonholed, and that's hard enough as it is, isn't it? If you've got 32 years in recruitment and I'm looking to, let's say, change direction into, let's say, you know, working for a garden centre. Gardening is a huge passion of mine. Some of you know I've got a big allotment just, you know, half a mile down the road. So this opening statement is crucial. And it's what the spiders, which are the things that delve down into the internet, that's what they're going to find. That's what the robots are looking for. And it's what gives the recruiter the 30 seconds to decide to whether they're going to scroll down below the break. Because it's that kind of, you know, when you look on your laptop or on your mobile phone or whatever you're using to view stuff as recruiters, you know, if we have to scroll down, well, that means we're really interested. But a lot of the time, it's just waffle, so we just delete and go on to the next one. Particularly at the moment when there's so many people out there, you can imagine. I did a bit of recruitment a couple of months ago, and it was a fairly, you know, generic role. In January, I had 12 people for this role, and this time I had over 200 people apply for an identical role within the same company. What about that? And whilst we're talking about applying for jobs, please only apply for jobs that you're suitable for. You know, if you're looking to recruit, as a recruiter looking to recruit an insolvency administrator, for example, please don't apply if you're not relevant, because that's the one way to really annoy recruiters. And whereas if you'd applied to them and said, you know, look, I'm interested in roles, not for that insolvency role, but maybe another role in accounting or finance, they're inclined to consider taking you seriously. But if you just ignore them and just spray your CV out there, honestly, you know, I'm not saying there's a blacklist around the whole recruitment sector, but certainly, you know, recruiters do talk. So just think about that. Only apply for stuff that's really relevant. The next piece of the jigsaw for the CV, 2 pages, no logos, nothing fancy, no crazy fonts. Please, if you've got a desire to show how great you are at Canva or any other desktop publishing software, the CV is not the place, believe me. Because even if you're applying for a job in design, the recruiters, the HR managers, they don't have time to kind of work out what you've done with everything. Just follow the normal layout. So, opening statement at the top. Please make sure that you've got your full name, your mobile phone, your LinkedIn profile must be on there. You don't need to put your whole address, maybe just your town and your postcode. And then we come into 2 columns, achievements and specifically skills. Now, if you've got great communication skills, if you are pretty okay on Word, if you're reliable, these are not skills, please. These are attributes, personality traits, if you like. So please, can we just not do that? Think AI, think artificial intelligence. What is it looking for? What skills have you got that aren't necessarily unique to you, but are still going to make you stand out when somebody's looking at your CV and it's been fed through the filters to recruiters that will get delivered to them by CV Library and read people with the appropriate skills highlighted in yellow. That's how we see it, okay? And your achievements also. Crucially, make sure your achievements have got punch. That's almost like, you know, the second part of your like your, you know, when you go to the cinema and you see the trailer for the forthcoming, you know, for me it was the Bond movie. When am I going to go and see the Bond movie with my son? You know, wonderful trailers. Obviously they've pushed it back now for obvious reasons. But, you know, they spend 2/3 of the marketing budget on the trailer. So your opening statement and your achievements and your skills are what's going to make people read on a little bit further. I hope that makes sense. And then we go into your employment background. Now, most recent first, I think we all understand that. You put the name of your company, you put the period of time that you were there. Don't just put the years, put the months. You know, the reality is we're going to find out anywhere. If you put 2016 to 2017, does that mean December 16 to January 17, or does it mean January 16 to December 17? Nearly 2 years. Tell us the truth, please, because it's only going to come out anyway. And if you are a job hopper, well, maybe you need to explain that in the CV as to why you did move on. Because again, you've got to make it easy for people to want to engage with you or just pick up the telephone. So think about that. Also, if it's not obvious what the company does, okay, if you work for Virgin Airways, we know But if you're working for another company that might be a competitor of the one you're applying for, or maybe is in a completely different sector, put down what they do. You know, turnover, you know, name of the company, what they do, turnover, maybe the number of staff, period of time you're there, and your job title. Now, I always recommend that you put more into your overview about your most recent role than you do going backwards. But there are occasions, particularly when you've shifted role or you've changed sector, you do need to beef up some of those duties and responsibilities further down the CV for previous jobs. You might need to consider going back 10 years perhaps. You know, I tend to work with a lot of people that are kind of my age, late 50s, early 60s, as well as people that are, you know, in their 30s and 40s. And I think you kind of attract the clientele that kind of fits in with your age group perhaps. And I know people that send me, you know, they're in their 60s and send me CVs, finance directors, and they go back to, you know, when they first started working in the late 70s. We don't need that. We just want to know really what you've done the last sort of 5, 10, 15 years, and give an executive overview of what the job was about. What did you do in 2 lines, no more, and then again break it down as you've done earlier into duties, no more than 6, and 3 achievements at the bottom. And here's the killer for a lot of people. I say, put down the reason you're leaving. Now, it could be that, you know, you're looking to work close to home, you're looking for better progression, you're concerned about the instability, redundancy. You've got to be very careful with some of this stuff because you can't breach confidentiality. And imagine that if your boss was to go onto your LinkedIn profile and was to see your CV there, and you've said, well, actually, the boss is a so-and-so, I really don't like her, I've got to leave this business. Not a good move. So be very, very careful. Mo's laughing. Mo, I could tell you some stories of people that have been very, very open with the truth in not only on CV but also interview. You know, why did you leave your last company? Well, the lady I worked with was inappropriate. You know, gosh, do we really want to know that? Maybe just say it's time to move on. Hi Martin, how are you? Good to see you. And Joe's there as well, and Ron, Naz, Gary, 2 Gs. Another Gary with 2 Gs. Gavin, what about that? Mandy and Steve and Andreas and Igor. Love to see you all here. Hi Louise, how are you? Did you get that website, by the way, Louise? Yes, I'm not going to forget you, Rashema. Good to see you over there. So, when I think about the CVs, it's your one chance to make an impression. And they do say it, don't you? You only get one chance to make a good impression. And I think, Leonard, you know that, don't you? You know, you've got a great hairstyle, you've got a nice moustache, you look good. It's not just the way you look when you're going for an interview, it's the way that you kind of come across with stuff. And I think if you go through your CV and don't necessarily pass it to friends or family, get people, professional people in your sector to look at it very, very critically. Now, there is some software that you can get when you can put your CV and it jumps out with the key phrases and the messages. Now here's an issue that I want to talk about, which is photographs. Now, it's a weird one, isn't it? I started seeing people putting their photographs on their CVs about 10 years ago, mainly from people coming from Eastern Europe. And I remember talking to Gavin actually, and to Karen, my ex-co-director, about how we felt about this. And I was pretty keen not to put the photographs on CVs. But then of course LinkedIn came on, didn't it? And suddenly your photographs everywhere. So if people are going to be looking at your CV, well, they're going to be checking you out on LinkedIn, aren't they? And of course they're going to see, you know, your face shot. So I've kind of done a bit of a 180 about this. I don't mind people putting photographs on. However, what I would say is it's not a fashion show. And I do see a younger element, and I'm going to be sexist here, it's typically girls who potentially overly made up, looks like they're going out for a night with their friends, and you know, very attractive, some of these lasses, but really it's just to kind of give us a visual representation, an idea. You know, it's, you know, going back in the day, Exchange and Mart, they used to sell cars and boats and planes and stuff back in the 70s, was blown out of the water by Auto Trader because they simply put a photograph with a picture of the car. We all know what a BMW 3 Series looks like, but people wanted photographs. So I think now, yes, if you want to put your photograph, however, just make it a normal, use the same headshot that you've got on LinkedIn. That's my best advice, okay? So we're coming up to 8 o'clock. I'm kind of just aware that there's so many people on this. Gavin, how many have we got on Facebook? If you want to unmute yourself for a moment. 13. So I'm just wondering if anybody's got any questions. If we can go into the if people just want to put their hand up physically, then we can see if anybody's got any questions. Any questions at all? Right, I'm going to unmute you. Actually, you are unmuted, Rashima. What have you got to say?
Hi. Good evening, everyone. You were talking about like achievements and skills.
Yes.
My background is more admin. I'm the person in the background. How do you then translate those achievement or skills or effectively onto the paper?
Okay, so as an office administrator, I guess you're better than average on certain software packages, is that right?
That's correct.
And are you numerate and are you literate?
100%.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
Go ahead.
9 times 12.
108.
Whew! Well done. If you've got that element, if you've got that degree of literacy and numeracy, there are some free software packages you can go onto whereupon you can assess your skills and you can include those results. So do that. I mean, I use one in our business called ISV or FastPath. There are a whole bunch of others. Go on there, do your tests, get better if you're not brilliant, and put down how good you are. You know, speed is important, but accuracy more so. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
And if you are highly literate and you are numerate, also put those scores down as well. You know, what I find very frustrating, I had a lady in her 40s, she had a 18-year-old daughter, and I asked her I said to her, how's your mental arithmetic? She said, oh, it's really good. I said, can you tell me what 5 times 7 is? And honestly, she couldn't tell me what 5 times 7 was. And I said, look, at that point, and her Word was great, her Excel was way above average. She said, well, I use a calculator. I said, that's not the point. You need to know what the numbers feel like. And that's what people want. So if that's what you're doing, go into detail. If you want to message me, you know, it's easy, isn't it? hello@crazyaccelerator.com. We'll have a chat. How about that? Is that okay?
That is marvellous.
Fabulous. Thanks for joining in. Anybody else got anything to say or ask questions? Just wave at me or anything like that. Gavin, I'm going to unmute you because, you know, Gavin, if you don't know, is a very close friend. He's a mentor. He leads me down lots of paths. Gavin, you just messaged me. Do you want to share it, actually? You're muted, Gav. There we go. You're live, Gavin.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I hadn't sent you a message deliberately, Graham. You had 16 people. I was posting on Facebook to see if anybody had any questions, but apparently they don't. I do have a question, though, of my own, which is a bit unlinked, but it goes right away back to the start. Because while you were talking about the figures, I saw that there's another 600,000 people who have come off the employment figures in May, which was to add to the numbers that you'd already got for April, wasn't it? What do you see happening to that now? Where do you see it going? Because I know you've been revising your figure, haven't you?
Yeah, I have actually. In fact, do you mind just parking it for us? I've got to get up. It's in the chat. In case I got any other questions. Louise, it was louiseedwards.com, wasn't it? Right, there we go. Okay, so I've covered those off. Yeah, my concern is, and listening to the news this evening, that they're talking about, you know, from my expectation was we were going to see 3.25 million. With you in a minute, Mo. Are you waving at me, Mo, or are you polishing your your camera? You know, I estimated 3.25 million by the time we get to February, Gavin. But when I hear about you know, 11,000 people going to be made redundant on the 1st of July, those are pushing the numbers up. And I think until we've seen the end of furlough phase 1, if you like, I don't think we're really going to see the picture. And interesting enough, I haven't been able to get any real data for the figures for May. They're normally published middle of June, so sort of probably 2 weeks after. I haven't seen those. If anybody else has got those, I'd like to know.
600,000, Graham, that's what I was saying.
An extra 600,000?
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So, you know, we had an increase of 856,000, so it was nearly 0.9 million in the month of April, another 600,000 in May. So, you know, we're looking already at going up to about 2.75 million, and we're not yet into the end of the furlough period. You know, when you think about hospitality employing 3.2 million people, and it's not just the front of house chefs, cooks, waiters, it's the people behind the scenes that are involved in that business. So you've got accounts people that are involved in hospitality. You've got people that are, you know, doing the marketing for hotels. You know, this 3.2 million aren't just the people we see at the front, they're the people behind the scenes. We've got 2.9 million people in retail. John Lewis today said they are going to close some of their stores permanently. What about that? Never to return. Now, you know, we all love John Lewis, I'm sure, but today, online, you know, Amazon, I don't know about you, Gavin, up, you know, where you live in your little bumpy private road with gates at the bottom and armed guards, of course, but, you know, every day, well, every hour, there's an Amazon delivery, isn't there, coming down the road, or Parcel Force, or DPD, or whatever the others are. You know, I'm just ordering stuff via the web these days.
Do people, when they're choosing jobs, then need to really think about the industries? You know, you're an accountant. Do you need to start revising what industries you potentially work for and specialising your portfolio so that you're more attracted to industries which are going to grow as opposed to ones that are going to die?
Yeah, the smart people, Gavin, have been thinking about this for some time, and I certainly know a lot of people at C-suite, director level people, that are concerned that their business, their sector, is either going to be damaged beyond belief or completely disappear. Obviously, some people are doing really well, I get that, but a lot of people are very concerned, and so it has to be said that, you know, we do need to start thinking about retraining, developing new skill sets and so forth. And you know, when you think about Mark Carney, March 2017, just 3 years ago, saying that he thought that because of AI, the software we've been talking about that's looking at our CVs, but, you know, emanates through so many different factors of business, he said he thought that probably 30% of all jobs would disappear by 2030. Well, I reckon it's going to be 40% by 2025. And here's the thing: for those of us that have got, you know, young adult children that are about to graduate, or maybe are graduating this year, it's a very, very different world. And sadly, a lot of the jobs that they've been training for are just going to disappear. So we've got to start thinking about what is there going to be for the future. A lot of these young people are going to know that it's going to be literally kind of a privilege to work, which I think some people are going to find a bit strange. Leonard, you look like you're under 30, am I correct?
Well, then he's also asked a question down in the box, Graham.
In the chat. So look, we might just unmute him and see. Leonard, how about the luck factor in the selection process involved in the job we apply for? Should I use mirror techniques as a form of answering? Okay, that's two very good questions. Look, Leonard, here's the truth. Luck, being in the right place at the right time, does play something, doesn't it? You know, Alita Adams, My Generation, Tears for Fears, they discovered her in a bar in the Midwest singing. They grabbed her and they catapulted her. You know, would Lulu have become such a great star if she hadn't been friends with John Lennon and Paul McCartney? Who knows? But as Nick Faldo said, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. And Gavin runs a fantastic resource that you should check out, im10.com/sales thingy, and his lunchtime lunch with Gavin on Zoom and Facebook. And we talk a lot about the fact that the more that you are doing the job, the more you're inclined to get lucky. Mirroring. You've got to be very careful with mirroring, Leonard. You really have. Now, you know, if we can just get into Gavin for a bit, and thanks all for staying. I'll just keep talking as long as people are here. You know, Gavin, let's just talk a bit about NLP. Leonard, do you know much about NLP? You do? You know a little, a titchy bit. Okay. So, Gavin, if you want to unmute yourself and give us just a very basic flavour, because I know David Shepherd covered this in massive detail on one of your fantastic Thrive Project conversations that are there for everybody for free. But mirroring, how do you feel about mirroring, Gavin?
I think it's very powerful when it's done respectfully. I think if it's blatantly obvious that you're doing it, then it's a major problem. But I think if you pick it up gently and slightly, then it works. You know, if you're linking back to Graham's disc profiles, I'm speaking very slowly right now, but when I'm excited or whatever, I speak incredibly quickly. I'm very visual, and pictures come through my head dead fast. And so simple mirroring, like noticing that somebody's much more steady and much more process driven than me, taking the flamboyance out of my words, dropping the speed a little bit, removing some of the emotion, is definitely something that I believe works. But I think if you take the piss and take it too far, or start feeding back, silly little phrases that don't mean anything to you, I think it doesn't work. I think likewise, you have to be very careful about copying body language as well. Having said that, generically, I do think if you find yourself in an interview and you're leaning right forward and they're like sat back, I would very slowly, gradually start to, just lean back a little bit and vice versa. And again, if you find yourself speaking really slowly, someone else is really fast, I would just pick up a bit to come towards them. But I would take the bigger issues like that rather than the more specific pieces, because I think more specific pieces are harder to do and easier to identify that they go, hang on a minute.
How do you feel, Joe? We'll come to your question in a minute, okay? How do you feel about pacing, Gavin?
Oh, pacing, I think is important.
Yeah. Can you explain that to everybody, please?
Well, it depends what you mean. Do you mean pace of speech, or do you mean pacing a situation?
No, from a speech point of view, because last week when we were talking about psychometric profiling, we talked about the high D, the high I's, tending to talk like you and I quicker.
Yeah, auditory plays a really big part in getting rapport with people, and for the most part, changing your auditory patterns is below people's level of consciousness. So again, if you were speaking like this and you suddenly slow down like that, people would pick it up. But if you just gradually just taper it down, or in the initial piece of the conversation just pick somebody up. So as I said, I'm a dead quick talker. I put loads of emotion in and I move a lot. And if I've got a group of people I don't know, I will generally speak, before they've spoken, I will start much more reasonably. The thing with people is that people who speak very quickly and are very visual and are all like this, when you start slowly, they'll think, oh. But they're also easy to please. So as soon as you speed up, they'll be, oh, this is all right now. He's got into his stride. Whereas if somebody is very slow and very considered and very processed, and you start like this, you've lost them and you will not get them back because they think you're an idiot. So yeah, definitely pacing can play a big part. And certainly, when you get difficult questions, even just thinking about pacing, even just sort of saying, gosh, that's a good question, and then pausing and taking a breath, just demonstrates that you're thinking about it, gives you a bit of time, gives them a bit of time, and then answering at a steady pace shows you're taking things seriously. I think the interesting thing is with pace, a lot of people, when they're put under pressure, speak very quickly or more quickly than normal, and actually subconsciously, even though no one says you're speaking questions quickly so you're nervous and you're making stuff up, underneath they think you're speaking quickly and you're nervous because you're making stuff up. So I think pacing is very important, and I think mirroring works, but you've got to do it respectfully. Yeah,
it's very good. Thanks, Gavin. Appreciate that. You got 2 for the price of 1 tonight with Gavin.
You've got a question down here from Stan as well. Chris.
Yeah, I just want to get back to Joe because he's got a question, but also I was just talking about communication. Leonard, check out a guy called David Shepherd. He's got a £6.97 monthly. Hi Jackie, you're a bit late, but good to see you. So check out David Shepherd. I am David Shepherd. Very good. Joe. Joe was asking me about the software that we can put our CV into. I don't know. I've heard about it. I've never used it. If you can find it, Joe, please let me know at hello@careersaccelerator.com. Would you mind? In the same way, there's software that you can plug in your emails for. Gavin and I were talking about that, in terms of avoiding spam. So I've got another question. How are Gavin? Let's have a little look.
Let's read it. It's from Stan. Most UK companies want skills specific to their sector. With digital business disruption, new business models will emerge that cross sectors. Business leaders appear to be in denial. How do you craft an industry and discipline agnostic CV when you have worked across most and don't fit the narrow job profiles?
Okay, right. So, Stan, where are you? Is Stan on Facebook or is he here?
No, he's on here, but I can't see him. But you're recording, so if you answer it, you could tag him on Facebook and let him know you did.
Okay. Rashima's going below. No, Joe's below you on my screen, actually, Rashima. So, look, here's the thing. And I think we're going to talk about this next week, actually, and certainly I'm covering it a lot. Hi, Stan. Good hairstyle, mate. Fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, the thing is, Stan, that when we talk about agnostic or kind of generic CVs, I think we're missing the point here. Because whilst I do advocate a really good, well-constructed CV that you can put up on, CV Library and Read and Total and the other databases, if you are applying specifically to a company, and I'll talk about this next week, I think, just to declare what we're going to do next week. More than half of the jobs never advertised. Confidentiality, not wanting to let the competition know what's going on. Maybe people internally don't know they're going to be leaving a business, particularly at the moment. So, a lot of positions never advertised, and certainly at the sectors that I tend to do a lot of work in, senior level. You don't often see jobs as managing director required or sales director required. A few more of those, but often these jobs are under the radar because they don't know, should we say, upset clients, suppliers, existing member of staff, even shareholders. They don't let the competition know they've got problems. So if you're in a very, very specific kind of environment which is in flux and moving very, very quickly, for me I'd be saying, right, let me write to these individual companies, but based upon the research that I do. Because look, the truth is that recruiters don't have all the jobs. And the fact is that some recruiters aren't necessarily always on your side. They're thinking about their fee. Well, they might have the best job for you, but the other job's got a bigger fee. You're not going to hear about the job that's better for you, that maybe they're going to earn 2/3 the fee of the one they're going to put you forward for. So sometimes you've got to kind of talk to recruiters and make them aware about the depth of experience you have that's now more adaptable. But I'd be, for you, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself in a minute so we can kind of just get a bit more context. I'd be saying for you, I'm very happy to talk to you via email about this. If you think you're going to be going in a different direction, you've got to do something different. Yeah? Stan, do you want to just take yourself off mute and say whether there's anything else you want to say, or whether that kind of covers mildly where we're at?
Yeah, I think it does. I think many of those kind of roles are often hidden, and I think that when one's looking for a specific skill at certain levels that is within a current business model, but those business models themselves are changing, and so I think often the roles that are being defined are based on what was and not what's going to be coming forward, and so it's very difficult to challenge that mindset when you're relatively new to a market and trying to get people to be more receptive to
Yeah.
to something that's almost agnostic. And what I mean by agnostic is when your skill set goes across
Yeah.
multiple industries and multiple sectors, but equally so multiple functional areas, so that you're actually able to add a different type of value that is not measured in current metrics, but is in future value, as in value proposition, the business value proposition of it.
Are you? I detect a Southern Hemisphere accent. Are you in the UK, or are you speaking to us from?
Accurate. That's correct.
Whereabouts are you?
Pardon?
Whereabouts are you?
From South Africa.
Yeah.
But living in London. Yeah.
Oh, how are you enjoying the weather?
Love it. I brought it with. You can thank me later.
You did indeed. Anyway, lovely. So, you got my email. Easy to catch up with me. Is that okay, Stan?
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining in. So, I kind of think that we are getting to the end of the session. We've definitely gone more than half an hour. Leonard, okay, Leonard, when should I talk about the money, and should I keep it lower than the offer displayed? Let's just go to Leonard. We might as well carry on, don't you think, Gavin? Thumbs up if you agree. Why not? So, Leonard, give us an example.
Well, just tell people if they don't feel polite, if they want to go, they can.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you stay if you want to, you don't have to.
Good evening. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Leonard.
So, yeah, I was asking about the fairly money in the end of the procrastination of the topics that I expose. So when is the right point, in terms of, businesses, in terms of when is the right situation with the recruiters having that sort of argument?
Well, firstly, I don't think there's any absolute time, unless we're applying for a sales job, whereupon I'd be getting it on the table really early. Is it a sales job that you're looking at or not?
Yeah.
It is. Okay, so sales, always talk about the money. Don't be frightened about talking about the money. If you can't negotiate hard for yourself, you won't be able to negotiate hard for someone else, firstly. You should have an understanding from the recruiter or the brief you were given about the pay structure. I always think it's good in a sales situation to ask for some kind of evidence as to, well, how much did your top salesperson last year, how long they've been with you, was it a bit of a flash in the pan, what did number 2 and number 3 people earn, what was the average earnings, what are the commission deals, how do I get more commission, how do I get more money, what do I actually have to do to get on in this business. And I think that's very appropriate. Certainly I've spent all my life in sales environments, in property and recruitment.
How about the design dimension in reality? Because I have a broader background, so in terms of what I'm selling and what I'm taking to the company is even a matter of design.
Why don't you email me and we'll have a conversation, just you and I. How about that, to make it specific? But generally in the UK there is this kind of thing about the money. Do we talk about the money? And I think that increasingly employers are open to talk about money, particularly when there's so much uncertainty going on, and to clarify. So sometimes I'll get clients who say to me, well, Graham, we're looking to pay 32 to 35 for this position. And my question is always, well, what is it that's going to identify somebody as a 35,000 person rather than somebody who's on 32? What do they need to be? Unhelpfully, sometimes they say, well, we'll see them on the day. Others will be much more focused depending on their personality type. If they're a high C, they'll tell us about specific experience, what they can actually bring to the party and how long it's going to take them to kind of get ramped up, really into the job. So as a recruiter, I always drill down. What does that look like? Now, when I first started this business a long time ago, when I had hair, it was different. You kind of couldn't really go there. Maybe that was just because my clients were older than me. There I was in my late 20s, early 30s, asking people late 50s, early 60s, because I got more confident. I used to drill them down and say, what is it? Because candidates get very frustrated if they think they've got everything that's wanted and they think they're a 35 or 40,000 pound person and they get a lowball offer. What's that about? and sometimes the client can go so low that they destroy that potential relationship. Something goes from it, you know. It's a bit like a relationship between, you know, two individuals. You can kind of feel when it's right to talk about sensitive stuff, and there's times when it's inappropriate. And this is the same, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit longer later. We are running out of Zoom time, guys, I'm afraid to say. Let's just see if we've got any more in the chat line here.
Thank you so much again.
You're very welcome. Leonard, nice to engage with you. Thanks for joining in. Really appreciate it. Aldi, goodbye. Stan, thanks. It looks to me as if people are wrapping up. So I'll see you next Wednesday, 7:30. We're going to be talking about, you know, the jobs that are off the radar, and we're talking a little bit more about what's happening on the 27th of July for my my free 5-day challenge, which is to give you all the fundamentals you need to start looking for work. So thank you very much. Have a great week. Enjoy the sunshine. Don't go mad in the pubs this weekend. I think it's going to be carnage for some people. Pub local to me that I walked past today, they've taken in all the benches from the outside, taken them indoors. They've locked off their car park, and you know, I think, you know, the lady who runs it is potentially concerned it could be a little bit of carnage. So Mo, thanks for joining in. Igor, Roland, Pete, Mandy, Andreas, Stan, Mumsy, Jackie, Ron, Martin Jones, of course, Leonard, Joe, myself, and of course, last but not least, Rakshima, and everybody else on Facebook. Thank you very much. Let's hope that I can actually press the button. It'll be there forever, because unlike last week, I'm not doing this one again, am I, Gavin?
No, it's there. It's there, Graham.
It's there. It's there. Okay, lovely. Righty-ho. So we're going to end this, and thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week for Careers Club with Careers Accelerator, 7:30 every Wednesday. Bye.